Hey everyone, Dockwell here, and in today's video, I'm going to be going over Arcane boots and Tranquil boots. I'm going to show you what they do, how to use them, and when to buy them. So if you didn't know already, the reason I'm combining Arcane boots and Tranquil boots together in a video is because these are the two main support boots that you're going to be buying in pretty much every single game. 4 positions, 5 positions, they're probably going to be buying one of these two boots. So it's a good thing to compare them when we talk about when do we buy one. Well, it's good to think about when do we buy the other, and then contrast them and see which one is better for our specific hero, but also our specific game. And so first we're going to take a look at Arcane boots, and most people actually call these mana boots because it's really all about giving yourself and your allies mana, and they cost 1,400 gold. They give you 45 movement speed, which is pretty typical, and then 0.25 passive mana regen, which is not a lot, but this active replenish is huge. Every 55 seconds, you can restore 150 mana to yourself and all nearby allies in a 1200 radius, plus you get this extra 1 mana regen to allies in a 1200 radius as well. So this is very good passive regen, but also every 55 seconds, 150 mana is a lot. This is great for laning stage spells if you really get these early, or even later on in the mid game when your carries are farming, your mid is farming. You can use these Arcane boots to just give them extra efficiency, more mana, so they don't have to buy clarities and stuff like that, and that allows them to just farm more if they're spamming spells. So it can be very, very good in all those different situations. So it's mainly a mana item, which is why most people call it mana boots. And then we can look at Tranquil boots, which actually only cost 900 gold, and that's a lot cheaper than the 1,400 gold of Arcane boots, and we get 65 movement speed compared to the 45 of Arcane boots and the flat 45 of the normal boots of speed. So Arcane boots doesn't really give us any more movement speed compared to the 65 that Tranquil boots just amps up a lot. So this is really good for movement speed and 14 health regen, which is kind of insane. So you can see obviously that Tranquil boots are the boots for health, and then Arcane boots are the boots for mana. That's pretty straightforward and obvious to see that. Now, Tranquils do have this interesting passive break component, which is very different from a lot of other passives for most items or heroes in general. And basically, whenever you attack a hero, so if you attack an enemy hero, not a creep, but a hero specifically, or you're attacked by any unit, so a hero or a creep, the bonus 14 HP regen is lost and the movement speed is reduced to 40. So that bonus goes from 65 to 45 less than the Arcane boots and the flat boots of speed. So it's this weird situation where you have a lot of regen and movement speed when you're outside of combat or creeps aren't attacking you, but if creeps hit you or the enemy hits you or you're in combat or something like that, then you don't have that regen, you don't have very much movement speed overall anymore as well. So it's kind of a trade-off thing where you have to make sure that you're not getting hit by the enemies or the creeps to take advantage of this. But overall, the main consideration is, do you want mana? Do you want health? And that's really the main factor in determining which one we're going to be buying. So then to show you how Tranquils and Arcane boots work, I decided to pick Lion here for the Tranquils because this hero buys Tranquils pretty much every game, because once you have Tranquils, which give you more HP, then you just have your mana drain, which allows you to sustain for mana. So you don't really need to have anything else. You can stay on the map forever with this hero with this ability plus these Tranquil boots, where the opposite is kind of the case of a tanky hero like Jakiro. This hero has decent HP pool, decent regen overall. So this hero loves to buy mana boots because this hero really has high cost spells that you want to be using a lot. So you're going to be using mana in general a ton on this hero. And it's really straightforward. When you have the Tranquils in your inventory, they just work. You have fast movement speed. You just have a ton of regen. You can see the 16.3 here. But then if you get attacked by an enemy, you can see now they go on cooldown. They're broken for that 13 seconds, and you actually have to stay out of the range of enemies or creeps for that duration so that you don't get broken again. Whereas the Tranquil boot's pretty straightforward. You just have mana regen in this AoE. You just press them when they're off cooldown, and boom, there you go. Now you have more mana, your allies have more mana, pretty straightforward. I did want to say, though, that obviously when you click an enemy as well, when you attack them, that also breaks the Tranquil boots. And if we turn on the creeps here, we can see that you can attack creeps. So I'll go hit the enemy creeps here, whether they're jungle creeps or lane creeps, and that doesn't cancel the Tranquil boots. But if we get hit by enemy creeps, so if we aggro the enemy creeps there, now I'm hit by the enemy creeps or hit by jungle creeps, that does cancel Tranquil boots as well. So you have to be careful. It's not just attacking anything. You can farm with these, with the regen active. You just can't engage with enemy heroes, but if you're hit by anything at all, that will cancel the Tranquil boot regen, so just keep that in mind. And then in terms of the heroes that like to buy Arcane versus Tranquil, we can kind of think of it in this main way, which is supports like to buy mana boots as the default boot for most heroes. But then there are heroes like a Pugna, Lion, or Crystal Maiden. They have mana regen components in their kit already, so they don't really need that mana regen from the Arcane boots. Even though it helps them and their allies, they would rather go for Tranquil boots, so now they have the mana mana and the health sustain necessary to stay on the map pretty much forever. But although Arcanes and Tranquils are mainly support items, or you can think about them in that way, there are cores that want to go these items as well, especially if they want to upgrade to the better version of those items, which we'll talk about in a minute, because both of those boots have second upgrade paths that you can go to. So something like a Tide or an Underlord, even an Undying, if you want to go core, they can go for mana boots because they love spamming spells and they like to upgrade to that better version of the mana boots. Or something like, let's say, a Visage, who really likes to do a lot of right clicks and has a bunch of minions that want to right click as well, really benefits from Tranquils in terms of regen, doesn't need to spam spells a bunch, but also wants attack speed and movement speed that you get from having the Tranquils, but then the upgraded version of Tranquils as well. So there are those specific heroes that do like to buy these items that aren't necessarily supports, but those are rare, and they usually like to buy the upgraded version, which is why they're going for that smaller boot. Most of the supports, however, just keep Tranquils or just keep mana boots as that flat boot for most of the game. Maybe late game they will upgrade, but for the most part, they just want those boots as their default boots for the early portion of the lane, the mid game, and the later game. They usually don't consider upgrading them unless it's like 60 plus minutes and they have nothing else to buy. Then lastly, how do we build and when do we buy these items? Well, you can see here Arcane Boots is built from Boots of Speed, which is pretty obvious, and then Ring of Basilius, which you can actually buy this pretty early. It's made from Sage's Mask and a recipe, so you can actually get the Sage's Mask early and then build the ring early for just a little bit of extra regen, because you have to save up for a 475 gold recipe to build the Arcane Boots, which is why this is a pretty expensive item overall. But a lot of supports really like getting Boots early, getting Ring of Basilius early, just so they can get extra mana regen to spam more spells in lane. Plus it does help your ally as well when you have the ring just sitting there in your inventory for a lot of the early portion of the lane. Then you can also see that Arcane Boots upgrade into Guardian Greaves, which is what I was talking about. So a lot of cores that want to buy Arcane Boots, they're mainly doing that because they want to buy these Guardian Greaves, which is a mana plus a armor plus a health regen item that can be good in a lot of different situations. It's kind of like an aura boot, but it is very expensive and a lot of supports don't really like to buy it. So it is one of those things that if you're a support, it's mainly about Arcane versus Tranquil, where if you are a core, you will consider buying Arcane, not just because you want mana, but because you consider buying Guardian Greaves for the sake of the team later on in the game. Then in terms of Tranquils, we can see Tranquils are built from Boots, obviously, and then Windlace and Ring of Regen. So this is a very simple build up, no recipes involved at all, and obviously that's why it's 500 gold cheaper. And then once you get the Windlace or the Ring of Regen, and you can even buy Boots of Speed and Windlace in general to have these combined for just an extra flat 60 movement speed overall, and then finish it out with a Ring of Regen. Or you can even buy the Ring of Regen early if you want just extra regen in the lane. So there are different considerations if you know you're going into Tranquil Boots, considering which one you will buy based on how much these items cost. But once you get the Tranquil Boots, then you can upgrade to Boots of Bearing. And this is one of those things where, again, a lot of cores will buy Tranquil Boots because they want to get Boots of Bearing, which is more of like an attack speed, movement speed type of item, especially if they have a lot of minions. So if they have some kind of summon or something else like that, if they're buying, let's say, Helm of the Dominator or Overlord, they might get Boots of Bearing, and it can be good in those specific situations. But for supports, for the most part, you're not really going to be upgrading Tranquil Boots into Boots of Bearing. Sometimes, like a CM, for instance, has an attack speed talent where you could go for more of a pseudo right-click build. So you can definitely get this, and it can be a good team item, just like with Arcane Boots. There are supports that do like to get Guardian Greaves, don't get me wrong. It's just that that's not the main consideration for most supports, and they don't really upgrade it until much later in the game. And so that's really the long and short of when we consider buying Tranquils versus Arcane. Arcane is kind of the default for most supports, and then Tranquils are very specific for those heroes that already have a mana regen component to their kit. And then obviously you have the core version where there's a lot of strength heroes, let's say, that have low mana pools that need the Arcane to spam their spells, plus they maybe want to consider getting Guardian Greaves for the team later on in the game as a very big good aura item. Or you have those other cores that want to buy Tranquils because they're summon heroes that are buying Helm of the Dominator, Helm of the Overlord, or they have summons in general, so they just want the Tranquils so they can build into Boots of Bearing for attack speed, movement speed, and those kinds of things later. But otherwise, it's mainly a support item, and you're going to consider buying Arcane or Tranquil. It's mainly very hero specific based on whether or not you have a mana regen component in your kit already. And that, everyone, is Arcane Boots versus Tranquil Boots. I hope this helped you better understand the items and when to buy them. As always, guys, if you like the video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.